Hello everyone, welcome to my new video, and today we are going to explore a fundamental concept in Python: function arguments or args and kwargs, keyword arguments. First we'll talk about args, which stands for non-keyword variable length argument list, and args allows us to pass an endless number of arguments to a function, making it incredibly versatile and useful in various situations. So let's start with a simple example. First, let's see how args supplies argument in the function. So I'll create a function called print args. Then I'll give the asterisk sign. So here we'll give the asterisk sign, which is also known as unpacking or splat operator. Then I'll write args. Then inside the function I'll print the arguments args. So now let's call the function print args. Then I'll pass in some arguments 1, 2, 3. So here you can pass endless number of arguments. So in this example, we define a function called print args that takes asterisk args, and inside the function we simply print the value of args. So when we call the function print args, Python collects all the arguments 1, 2, 3 into a tuple, and tuple are like list. It behaves like a list in Python. That's why I had to make a video on list first. So after storing all the arguments, it will assign those values to a variable args. So now let's run the code and see the output. So as you can see, Python has printed the tuple 1, 2, 3, which contains all the arguments we have passed. So now let's look at more practical example. So now let's create a function that will get the sum of the numbers that are passed as an argument. So here's how to do it. First, I'll create a function called sum numbers. Then I'll take args, star args. So at first, I'll create a variable called total and assign the value 0 to it. Then I'll use for loop for num in args. So this is for to iterate over each numbers that are passed as an argument. Total plus equals to num, which is equivalent to total equals to total plus num. Then after totaling each number that are passed as an argument, I'll return the total. So now let's call the function. First, I'll create a variable called result to store the sum of the numbers. Now I'll call the function sum numbers. Then I'll pass some arguments 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Then I will print the result. The sum of numbers is result. So in this example, we define a function called sum numbers that takes star args, and inside the function we iterate over the elements in args, which is tuple, and we add each element to a total variable. Then finally we will return the total. So when we call the function sum numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, Python collects all the arguments into a tuple and assign it to args. Then the function calculates the sum of these numbers and return the result. So now let's run the code and see the output. So as you can see, Python has calculated the sum of numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, then printed the result. So similarly, let's try the same thing with multiplication. So we'll multiply all the numbers that are passed as args. So here's how to do it. First, I'll create a function called mul numbers, which takes star args. And I'll create a variable called mul and assign its value to 1. Then we'll use for loop for num in args. Mul multiplication sign equals to num, which is equivalent to mul equals to mul times num. Then after multiplying all the numbers, I will return the result mul. So let's call the function. So first I'll create a variable called result to store the result. Then I'll call the function mul numbers. Then I'll pass some arguments 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then I'll print the result. Multiplications of the numbers is the result. So now let's run the file. So as expected, it has printed the multiplications of the number that were passed. So args is particularly useful when we don't know the numbers of arguments that will be passed to a function, and it allows us to write a flexible function that can accept any numbers of arguments, making our code more robust and adaptable. So that's how we can use args in Python to handle an arbitrary numbers of arguments in a function. So in the previous phase, we learned about args, which allows us to pass an endless number of non-keyword arguments into a function. And in this phase, we'll explore kwargs, which stands for keyword variable length argument list. So kwargs also enables us to pass an endless number of keyword arguments to a function. So let's start with a simple example. First, I'll create a function called print kwargs. Then I'll give double asterisk sign. Then I'll write kwargs. Then I'll print the kwargs. So now let's call the function print kwargs. Then give some arguments. Name equals to result. Age equals to 20. So here we are passing the arguments into the function using a variable and a value, which is also known as a key and the value. So in the next example, we define a function called print kwargs that takes kwargs inside the function. Then we will simply print the value of kwargs. So when we call the function print kwargs, name equals to result and age equals to 20, Python collects all the keyword arguments into the dictionary and assigns its value to a variable kwargs. So now let's run the code and see the output. So as you can see, Python has printed the dictionary named result age20, which contains all the keyword arguments we passed to the function. And I will create a separate video talking about the dictionaries, but for now, let's understand how kwargs works. So let's look at a more practical example. So keyword arguments can be particularly beneficial when we want to perform certain actions such as editing or updating specific parameters. Using kwargs allows us to handle multiple parameters with ease, making our code more flexible and extensible. So here's how we can leverage kwargs to create an edit function that updates various parameters based on the provided keyword arguments. So now let's create a function called edit, which takes kwargs. And I'll specify some conditions for the parameters. So if name is in kwargs, it will print your name has been edited to kwargs name. So here, to access value inside the key, we use the syntax kwargs and square brackets, and inside the square bracket we'll pass the name of the key. So in this case, the key will be name. And I will also specify another condition for the age. If age in kwargs, print your age has been edited to kwargs. In this case, the key will be age. So now let's call the function edit. Name equals to was age equals to 20. So here we can also give a single argument name, but for now I'll pass both arguments name and age to the function. So in the example, we have defined a function that takes kwargs, and inside the function we check if the certain keys name and age exist in the dictionary or not, and if they do, it will print the message indicating that corresponding parameter has been updated with the provided value. So when we call the function edit, name equals to was, age equals to 20, Python collects all the keyword arguments into the dictionary and assigns it to a kwargs. Then the function checks for the key name and age in the dictionary and prints the appropriate message. So now let's run the code and see the output. So here you can see it has printed your name has been edited to was, your age has been edited to 20. So if we hadn't used kwargs, it would have been challenging for the user to track the exact parameters they want to update, and it would also be difficult for the user to pass those parameters to the function. By using kwargs, we can create more versatile and user-friendly function that can handle an arbitrary number of keyword arguments, making our code more flexible and easier to maintain. So that's how we can use kwargs in Python to handle an endless number of arguments in the function, enabling us to create more powerful and adaptable code. So for the final part, let's look at how to use args and kwargs together in a single Python function to make our code more flexible and reusable. So now let's create a function called makeFood. Then we'll set some parameters. First will be name. Then we'll use args as ingredients. Then kwargs as extra ingredients. So inside the function, first we'll print what we are making. Print making the name of our food. Then we'll print the ingredients. Print ingredients. We'll use for loop here since the ingredients will be in tuple. For ingredient and ingredients, print ingredient. Then we will print the extra ingredient, ingredients. So here we will also use for loop for key value in extra ingredients dot items. So here dot items will wrap the key and value in a form of tuple. So if you want to see how it wraps the value, you can print the extra ingredient dot items. And this is a new syntax you might just have seen. This is same as usual as for loop. Just the difference is here we will iterate over a key with a value, like a variable and a value. So we'll print key equals to value. So in this example, we have created a function called makeFood, and that takes 3 arguments: name, ingredients, and extra ingredients. So name is required argument that represents the name of the food we want to make, and ingredients is used to collect any positional arguments passed to a function into a tuple. So in this case, these will be the main ingredients for the food item, and extra ingredient is used to collect any keyword arguments passed to a function into a dictionary. These will be additional ingredients or option for the food item. So now let's call the function with some arguments. Make food, so we will be making sandwich. So the sandwich will be passed as a name argument, and then we have to now give arguments for ingredients. So we'll use bread, lettuce, and tomato. So you can pass endless number of ingredients, but for now I'm just passing 3. So now let's give arguments to extra ingredients. So now we'll use keyword sauce equals to mayo and toasted equals to true. So again, in this function we pass sandwich as a name argument and 3 positional argument, bread, lettuce, tomato, which will be collected in the ingredients tuple, and 2 keyword arguments, sauce and toasted, which will be collected in the extra ingredients. So now let's run the code and see the output. So you can see Python has printed the name of the food, sandwich, then printed the ingredients, followed by the list of the main ingredients from the ingredients tuple, then printed the additional ingredients or options from the extra ingredients dictionary. So the order of ingredients and extra ingredients in the function signature is important. Star args should always come before star kwargs. If we switch their order, Python will raise a syntax error. So by using args and kwargs together, we can create a flexible function that can accept any number of positional and keyword arguments. This will make our code versatile and easier to maintain, as we don't have to define a fixed set of arguments in the function signature. Whether we are creating a function to make food items or performing complex operations, the ability to handle multiple arguments type in a single function can be incredibly powerful and useful in main programming scenarios. So that's how we can use combined args, and kwargs in a single Python function to create a robust and adaptable code. So that's a wrap for our tutorial on using args and kwargs in Python. We have explored how to handle function arguments, the flexibility of args, and the power of kwargs. Remember to experiment with these concepts in your own project. So before we go, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon to stay updated with the more Python tutorials. And if you haven't already joined our Discord server, the link will be in the description. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next video.